Leningrad is a city most generously endowed with great beauty. Even so, St. Isaac's grandeur is outstanding. Inside, it is filled with rare objects of art. In Leningrad, the term priceless art treasures is heard so often about so many different kinds of art. One tends to discount the meaning of the phrase. But this you can believe. Leningrad, antiques, precious stones and metals. After all, this was the capital of Russia during its Tsarist heyday. During World War II, the city was under siege for 900 days, and it is difficult to find a family who escaped losing one or more loved ones in those tragic days. After the war, Leningrad was awarded and richly deserved the title Hero City. Flowing through the center of the city, the Neva River is connected by canals and waterways with the Black and Caspian Seas in the south. It empties into the Gulf of Finland in the north. Leningrad's winters are long and harsh. This river is frozen over from mid-November till early April. Russians have developed the hydrofoil to the point where it is used for commerce and pleasure all over the Soviet Union. We shall see them again and again in our travels. Peter and Paul Fortress, built over 200 years ago, was converted to a prison when it outlived its usefulness as a fort. Many of the infamous revolutionaries were imprisoned here. Lenin was one of them. A cathedral is connected with a prison, and here are entombed many of the early czars and their families. The hydrofoil loads and unloads tourists by the hundreds. The Russians, too, are great travelers. They are very proud of their past. All through the vacation season, they travel many miles to see the places where history was made. Nearby, the bust of Peter the Great stands in front of this brick building that protects the first log cabin built in Leningrad. Peter lived in it while building his palace across the river. It lies in the shadow of a modern high-rise apartment not yet finished. In Decembrist Square is the famous bronze horseman. This statue of Peter the Great rests on a 1,600-ton granite block. An early blacksmith won 7,000 rubles from Catherine II for moving the block from where it was found to this spot. He used brass balls and a special rail. On a January Sunday in 1905, the Tsar's soldiers murdered hundreds of his subjects in this square. Grand Duke Vladimir watched from this window of the Winter Palace and gave the order to fire on the peaceful petitioners below. If you come to Leningrad and have time to visit only one place, make that visit to the Tsar's Winter Palace and Hermitage. The palace was designed by an Italian architect, and building was begun in 1754. The complex, completed in 1765, contains 1,050 separate rooms, some larger than a 5-room house, and 117 stairways. It contains one of the world's 4 great art collections. You will see all the trappings of royalty. You will see all the rooms where the counts, dukes, and czarinas danced and romanced. In here are the actual settings where the adulterous Tsarina Catherine II lived and loved. The mad monk Rasputin lived here. He became the favorite of the later Tsarina, who fell under the spell of his weird power. The splendors of life, as lived by the Tsars, ended in 1917, when the Red Communists stormed the palace and captured Tsar Nicholas and his family in this room. They were subsequently executed. The Russian people want peace, happiness, and comfort. In this, they are no different than we Americans. As a matter of fact, it is hard to tell us apart. Let's cross the street, as the sign says, and look at the faces of this group. You guessed it, those were American faces, taken in America. Perhaps if we pursue this people-to-people approach, this Cold War may change to a warm friendship. We are traveling west to Peter's summer palace on the Gulf of Finland. All the remarks I made about the Russian people being like us applies to the landscape also. Our forests, lakes, prairies, and mountains are duplicated somewhere in the Soviet Union. This road we are traveling is the same that Hitler used to bring his troops within gunshot of Leningrad. The sign points to a monument on the side of the road. It marks the spot where Hitler's men made their closest approach to Leningrad. After almost 3 years, the siege was lifted, and then began the German rout that was to end in Berlin and total victory. Like everything else done by the Tsars, the summer palace and grounds are huge, so a map is needed to find your way back. It is a large area of wooded lanes and more than 100 fountains. While Mama works, the kiddies of the state-operated day school enjoy an excursion to Peterhof. This is a fairyland of fountains, parks, and palaces. It was built by Peter the Great in 1709. Peter was a builder, not a destroyer. He loved beauty and never missed an opportunity to visit Peterhof. He would come here for the summer by boat via the Gulf of Finland. Let's turn up the music and enjoy the beauties of Peter's house. Nearby, a man hides in the bushes and operates the valves to this trick fountain. The boys believe the water is triggered by stepping on the wrong stone, or perhaps I should say the right stone. Back in 1709, what do you suppose they used for power to pump all this water? It must require a great amount of power to activate these numerous fountains. Some are spouting a very large volume of water. tourists here from 5 or 6 European countries. We met and talked to people from France and England and other countries of the continent. The canal leads to the Gulf of Finland. One may make this excursion from Leningrad by hydrofoil also. It makes 2 round trips daily via the Finnish Gulf, except when the wind blows. Hydrofoils don't like rough water. In surroundings like this, time has wings, and all too soon it's time to board the bus for the 25-mile trip back to the city. In suburban Leningrad, new and modern apartments with smart shops line both sides of the boulevard. These are probably the best we have seen thus far in our Russian travels. This is the type of housing government agencies are going all out to replace. Good, modern housing is the #1 need. We were back in our hotel room at 8 p.m. It is still bright daylight. Tomorrow morning, we are scheduled for a long jet flight from this very beautiful city of the north to subtropical Yalta on the Black Sea. If Leningrad and its people are what Russia is all about, then I think I like Russia. The change in weather between Leningrad and Yalta is about the same difference there is between winter and summer. People do swim in the cold lakes and rivers of northern Russia, but our group would have none of it till we reached Yalta and the warm Black Sea. At the end of a long, hot journey, this was the perfect way to end the day. The next morning, our tour began at 9 a.m. The Intourist bus with our Yalta guide, Sonia, was right on time, and we followed the Black Sea coast to the east. Today, we plan to visit 2 of Russia's famous pioneer camps. The views were quite beautiful, and we stopped often to look and also to get out of the hot bus for a breath of cool air. This building on the Black Sea shore was the summer home of one of Russia's pre-revolution aristocratic families. Now, it is the property of the state, like everything else, and it serves as the main living quarters for this camp's pioneer members. The young pioneer movement in Russia is much like our own Boy Scouts and Campfire Girls, except it has strong political overtones. The children are exposed to communist propaganda throughout their stay. Nevertheless, many useful arts, crafts, and skills are learned. One of the responsibilities of the pioneers is the preparation and cultivation of these beds of flowers and the many other varieties of shrubs and trees that grow in this subtropical climate. They do have winter here, but our guide told us the winter season is short and mild. These Russians know something about the weather they're not telling us. Here is Yalta on the 45th parallel, and our own New York is a couple hundred miles farther south. So what? So ask any New Yorker what he knows about winter. A few of the boys watch us as we leave their camp and head for the largest and newest youth camp in the Union of Socialist Republics. Officially named Artek, it is best known as the Sputnik. One of the founders of the pioneers was Skrupskaya, the wife of V.I. Lenin. The movement was begun in 1922, and now 19 million boys and girls are members the world over. At age 9, a child is eligible to become a member. The Pioneer Program is one of 3 steps to full membership in the Communist Party. At 15, those who still profess to the proper political beliefs are granted membership in the Komsomol, meaning who have survived the constant purging and have reached the age of 27 are eligible for full membership in the Communist Party. In many cases, Mama and Papa are able to arrange their vacations to coincide with their children's camp period. Although the parents must make arrangements for sleeping on the outside, they are free to use the extensive facilities of complex during the day. When you see the masses of humanity on the public beaches, you will appreciate the meaningful privilege these folks are enjoying. There are boys and girls in this camp from many communist nations scattered around the world. Russia invited her fellow communists to send their more promising youngsters to play and study here. Children with talent for music, writing, the arts and sports are sought out, and here they study and compete with each other. Whenever we show these pictures of Russia, someone is certain to ask, were we free to travel and photograph what we pleased? The answer is a qualified yes. We were allowed to bring in as many cameras and as much film as we wished. We were told what the restrictions would be before we received our visas. We were forbidden to photograph military installations, airports, pictures from planes, seaport docks, and no pictures closer than 3 miles from any border. Our various guides would frown when we photographed any scene that was not complimentary to them, and would subtly try to discourage our efforts. But if we persisted, they would shrug their shoulders and pretend they didn't see us. Our exposed film was not examined at any time, and when it came time to leave, the customs officials waved us right on through. We were all a mite disappointed. We were certain they would give us a thorough shakedown. You know, I could have swiped that bear statue from our hotel in Leningrad. Most Americans deplore the political indoctrination given these youngsters, but we are in complete accord with them on all other aspects of the program. The children are taught self-reliance, good health habits, and a love for the outdoors. More courteous young people cannot be found anywhere. The badge of the young pioneer is the 3-cornered red scarf worn around the neck. The triangular shape was chosen for a specific reason. The corners represent the 3 stages of development in the life of a communist: young pioneer, consumal, and communist. Dormitories for the guests, and they are really guests of the state, cost them nothing. They are modern, pleasant buildings designed for this climate and outdoor living. On the sunroof of this building, a music class is in session. We are directed by a member of the consumal. She is a firm believer in the communist doctrine, and when not teaching music, tried to convert us to her side. Our guide has prevailed on the director of the camp to present a short program in honor of the guests from America. Singing and dancing groups from the various states of Russia will perform. First is a mixed group singing the favorite songs of all the Russians. These young people came from the state of Armenia. the state of Georgia. And finally, Armenian and Georgian young ladies in a very graceful dance. The boys are a bit saddened to see us leave. They have enjoyed having us as much as we enjoyed being here. Yalta has a permanent population of 35,000. During the summer, 10 times that number vacation here. The visitors are concentrated along the Black Sea shore in the many hotels and sanatoria lining the coast. This is a typical native street, perhaps a mile from the beach and up in the foothills north of the city. The dwellings were once the summer homes or dacha of the middle class. The state is the present owner. This small church is being restored after 30 years of idleness and neglect, another bit of evidence attesting to the softer policy of the Kremlin toward religion. Anton Chekhov was one of Russia's great writers. He lived in this home from 1899 till his death in 1904 at the age of 44. The accomplishments of his short life were many and varied. He was also a doctor of medicine, and while living here, ministered to the needs of many ailing natives. Botany was another great interest. This fig tree is but one of the many unusual plants he grew successfully. Now back to our bus for a look-see at scenery and sanatoria to the west of Yalta. This Crimean Peninsula is very beautiful. No wonder it has been the target of covetous invaders from Caesar to Hitler. We are entering an estate built and owned by a Polish prince back in the 19th century. This property is now operated as a rest home or sanatoria for Russia's higher-paid, skilled and professional workers. This Lenin, he gets around more than Kilroy. Our next stop is Levadia Palace, formerly owned and occupied by no less a person than Tsar Nicholas himself. It too is now a rest home. This plaque tells of the historic Yalta Conference. Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt met and talked in Levadia's inner court. Our guides claim they sat on this bench for that historic picture. Here is that picture. To me, they appear to sit on separate chairs. Yalta is one of the vacation areas where only the more deserving workers are allowed to visit. By law, they are guaranteed 2 or more weeks vacation each year. They are required to pay only 35% of the cost. The balance is paid by their workers' union. Where they spend their vacation is decided by the union. Only a favored few make it to Yalta or Sochi. Yalta's visitors are sun worshippers. About the time the sun rises over the horizon, the bathers begin to appear on the beaches. The hydrofoil must have calm water and makes its run before the winds begin. Various cruises are available to the vacationers. One may hire a small boat for a ride past town and back. A 3-hour trip to various points of interest along the coast with a stopover for a swim at some secluded beach. Or a day and a night cruise to the Black Sea resort port of Sochi aboard this luxury liner. That's what the travel folders call this boat. But luxury by Russian standards can leave a lot to be desired by us pampered Americans. This is the balcony of my hotel room overlooking the beach. The swallows boldly build their nest in the corner of every window in the hotel. When we stepped out onto the balcony, it was with care and caution because of the droppings. We tried to step on the dry ones only. And this is the scene from my balcony from sun up till sundown. There are many stretches of shoreline as suitable as this particular spot for sunning and swimming, but everybody in Yalta tries to move in here. Small cabanas are spotted about the beach for changing, but most can manage to slip on a swimsuit under a blanket or a dress. There are no sandy beaches on the Black Sea shore. The beaches are covered with small stones and pebbles, polished smooth by the action of the water. Your feet soon toughen and no great discomfort results from walking on the beach. Reclining on the stones is an entirely different problem, and it is solved by renting a slatted wooden platform that is just wide enough to accommodate the average-sized person. Once you get your platform, your problem is half solved. You now have a platform, but where do you put it? At the busiest time of the day, when the sun is high and hot, you're lucky to find a place to stand, let alone lie down. But if you persevere, eventually a spot is found. I found the Russians